Great. Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much to the MetLife Foundation for inviting me to beautiful Seoul to present some information to you all this morning. I'm really excited to be here with you all. My name is Brenton Peck. I'm a consultant at the Financial Health Network. Formerly known as CFSI, the Financial Health Network is a national nonprofit organization based in Chicago, Illinois. We are a trusted advisor of business leaders, policymakers, and innovators who are all united under a common purpose to improve the financial health of their customers, their employees, and the communities that they serve. We achieve our mission by shaping more robust and innovative marketplaces that push industries as a whole to develop higher quality products and practices. Through research, consulting, measurement tools, and opportunities for cross-sector collaboration, we advance the awareness and understanding and proven best practices in support of financial health for all. Underneath all of the programmatic work that we do as an organization, we lead a network of institutions who are all committed to improving the financial health of the people that they touch. The network that we lead is largely made up of those in the financial services space, including all of the big banks in America, the processors, the card networks, a variety of different fintech organizations, both smaller ones and larger ones, such as PayPal and Intuit, and many organizations in between. But as we continue to broaden our general understanding of how financial health is inextricably connected to other aspects of our life, we are finding that more and diverse institutions are contributing to the dialogue and implementing meaningful change, including more employers, healthcare providers, colleges, and universities. Over the years, the Financial Health Network has found a way to bring together competitors and stakeholders in different sectors in support of financial health for all. But I'd like to get our minds working a little bit more this morning by providing some consumer context from the United States. And first acknowledge that this topic, talking about those who are struggling financially, this can certainly be a humbling discussion, as we'll be reviewing many of the statistics that we've found through America. The idea here for all of us is to take a step back, to remove any and all biases, and really try and put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's living close to the edge. Much of what we talk about today is going to challenge conventional thinking, and it may certainly differ from the way that you manage your financial life. But my hope is that after our time together, you will have some actionable next steps, things that you all can take back to your respective organizations based on data and examples found in the United States that we believe can improve the financial health of Korean consumers. But to get there, and in my opinion, we're going to take a small step back in time. And to do so, I'm going to pull out a little bit of research that plays nicely into Professor Choi's comments. For decades, many of us in America have all assumed that what people want out of their financial life, or the way that they determine success, is to get rich or build wealth. In the United States, we call it the pursuit of the American dream. But that may not be the case anymore. In 2013, American Express commissioned a nationally representative study, and they asked American consumers how they define life success. Participants identified 22 possible measures of success. The number one response was good health, living a healthy lifestyle, being healthy. Number 4 was knowing how to spend my money well. And that thing that we all thought that people wanted out of their financial life, getting rich or accumulating assets or building wealth, that actually came in number 20 out of 22 possible measures of success. Now, given this study was conducted 6 years ago in 2013, so we may be tempted to chalk this up to a post-recession error. But the evidence shows us that this shift from wealth to health has been a gradual one, playing out over the past few decades. In fact, research from Pew, a nonpartisan research think tank based in Washington, D.C., found that when asking American consumers, would you rather have an increase in your income, a presumptive way to achieve more wealth, or financial stability, the vast majority of Americans, 92%, said financial stability. So what does that mean for us as a country and as a society? Well, for many of us, it means that we've been misinterpreting what people want out of life, or the American dream. Now, during that same time frame, we have all made incredible strides when it comes to our physical health. Just as Professor Choi alluded to, not that long ago, being healthy simply meant having an absence of disease. And being diseased meant you were absent health. But through high-quality interventions and technology, it's incredible what we're able to do today. I look down at my wristwatch as an example, and I think to myself how I can track things like my BMI, my body mass index, my carb intake, my calorie burn rate. It is becoming easier and more accurate for me as a consumer to answer the question, am I physically healthy? But what if I were to ask you and other Korean consumers today, how is your financial health? Besides getting an overly optimistic answer, you will likely have them ask themselves some questions, like, do I have enough money to sustain my life in retirement? Or perhaps, can I afford to send my children to university? Maybe if my car breaks down on the side of the road, can I afford to have it repaired? We have a ways to go, but in recent years, we have seen tremendous progress in being able to accurately assess and improve upon our financial health. But as a country, we still need to recalibrate how we think about consumer success. In part because if you just look at today's headlines figures, you may think that everything is just fine in Americans' financial lives. The stock market is soaring, unemployment is near an all-time low, and we are in the middle of the longest-running economic expansion in our history. But if you look beyond some of just those headline numbers, you see a picture that's not quite as rosy. Total U.S. household debt now tops $13.3 trillion, more than it was before the financial crisis. Baby boomers, leading up to and entering into retirement, are facing a large collective savings deficit. And Americans of all ages are buried under $1.56 trillion worth of student debt. So why this disconnect between what we are reading and hearing about on one hand and the true state of Americans' financial lives in the other? Well, as is the case in Korea, many of these macroeconomic statistics are obscuring the true state of Americans' financial health. For example, annual GDP growth tells us how much the economy is expanding, but it doesn't say anything about how those gains are being distributed across the population. The unemployment rate tells us how many people have jobs, but it doesn't say anything about the quality of those jobs or how those jobs are helping people lead financially healthy lives. And the soaring stock market is fantastic for the 48% of Americans that own stock, but it doesn't mean anything to the 52% who don't. So instead of looking at these overly abstract metrics, We need metrics that help identify the true state of Americans' financial health. And that's really where we come in as an organization. Similar to the Korean definition, we define financial health when somebody's day-to-day financial system functions well, so that they can build up resiliency when facing one of those inevitable financial shocks and pursue their longer-term opportunities, aspirations, dreams, goals, however you define those. And using our definition and framework, we took a pulse of the financial health in America. And this groundbreaking research study provides a new metric, a beacon for Americans' true state of their financial life in the country. We are extremely grateful to the supporters of this initiative that was made possible through a founding partnership with Flourish, a subsidiary of the Omidyar Group, as well as our friends at the MetLife Foundation, our founding partner in all of our financial health efforts. Additional support has been provided by AARP, who's providing a deeper dive into the low-income households above the age of 50. We're also partnering with a large university in the United States, the University of Southern California, who's providing access to a nationally representative panel of more than 5,000 US households. And we're supplementing that information through a company called Plaid, a data aggregator that's providing our researchers with a nuanced and unprecedented view into the inflows and the outflows of people's bank accounts. The US Financial Health Pulse research is large. It's something that the country has never seen before. It uses a combination of qualitative survey information as well as transactional information that includes how people are spending, saving, borrowing, and planning. This image depicts how all of these different components tie together. The US Financial Health Pulse is a longitudinal study, and late last year we completed the baseline survey in 2018. Our organization will continue to release data and ongoing insights in support of financial health for all through different sectors. The US Financial Health Pulse is based on our financial health framework. How people spend, save, borrow, and plan in ways that set them up for success in the future, as well as the 8 corresponding indicators of financial health. The research itself uses a scoring methodology, and once numerical financial health scores are calculated, somebody is deemed to either be financially healthy, financially coping, or financially vulnerable. You will see here that those individuals who score up to 40 on a 100-point scale are considered financially vulnerable. They are most likely at risk in all aspects of their financial health. Those scoring between 40 and 80 fall into the coping category, struggling with some aspect of their financial health, and those scoring above 80 are likely thriving in most, if not all, components of their financial health. The US Financial Health Pulse research revealed that 28% of Americans are currently financially healthy, while 72% are not. A large portion of our population, roughly 42 million Americans, are the most vulnerable and susceptible to financial challenges. But the largest category of financial health scores falls into the coping tier. And this chart depicts the national representation of scores in the United States. The largest tier are those individuals right in the middle, called financially coping, struggling with some component of their financial health. The second largest category are those financially healthy, followed by those most vulnerable. So that's one of our headlines through our nationally representative research. But like many people I speak to, you may be wondering how demographics plays into people's financial health. And our research finds, not surprisingly, that financial health is not evenly distributed across demographics. For example, older, higher income earners are more likely to be financially healthy than those who are younger and lower income. Men are more likely to be financially healthy than women. Those consumers with more education are more likely to be financially healthy than those with less. Able-bodied consumers are more likely to be financially healthy than those with a disability. And those consumers with stable employment and income are more likely to be financially healthy than those with an erratic one. But as is the case with anything in our society, it is impossible to predict somebody's financial health based solely on demographics. And I'd like to isolate income here for just a moment, as it's something that I've been thinking about a lot. And perhaps not that surprising, but income is not a direct cause of somebody's financial health. The median household income in the United States is right about $60,000 per year. And our research finds that 15% of those households who are making less than $60,000 per year are in fact financially healthy. They have a day-to-day system that works well for them so they can weather financial shocks and pursue their longer-term opportunities. At the same time, our research finds that 50% of those households earning more than $100,000 per year are struggling financially, falling into either the financially coping or the financially vulnerable tiers. So if it's not just about income, then what else accounts for where somebody falls on these financial health continuums? And just like our physical health, it's our behaviors and our attitudes that really matter. And so our researchers isolated the behaviors that have the highest correlation with financial health. And we found that people who have an emergency savings account, who are thinking about retirement and talking to financial professionals, who are actually using the budgets that we all build, and who automatically transfer money into their savings account, all of those behaviors have the highest correlation with financial health. But in addition, it's important to acknowledge that when it comes to Americans' financial health, there are larger societal trends at play. And we have more data mining to do, but I wanted to pull out 3 trends that we've identified thus far. The first of which is called the generational prosperity gap. Our research finds that those American households who struggled growing up are far more likely to be struggling when they reach adulthood. However, it is interventions such as higher education and stable employment that can potentially offset the lasting impacts of somebody's childhood financial health. There is a notable price of the increased cost of living in the United States. Against the backdrop of stagnant wages, the rapid rise in the cost of healthcare, housing, and food is preventing millions of Americans from leading financially healthy lives. And the third trend that's worth noting is the cost of instability, as those Americans who have stable income and employment are far more likely to be financially healthy than those with an erratic one. This trend certainly impacts those who are low to moderate income the most. But it's also these consumer groups who stand the most to gain through employer-offered solutions that many of us take for granted, such as healthcare subsidies, childcare costs, and paid time off. Now, despite the doom and gloom nature of what we discussed, I am hopeful. Because as an organization, we're seeing institutions and partnerships form every single day that's focused on improving Americans' financial lives. I'd like to pull out just a couple for you depicted on this image, and I encourage all of you to research the others at your leisure. All of these opportunities or examples are aligned to our framework of financial health, how people are spending, saving, borrowing, and planning. And I'll start with an organization that's called Simple. Simple is a neobank. You may refer to them as a challenger bank. There's been this noticeable rise of challenger banks across the globe. And Simple was recently acquired by BBVA, a Madrid-based global bank, for $117 million. But one of the appeals of Simple is a feature of their platform called Safe to Spend. What it allows people to see on a very engaging dashboard is how much money they have available to spend that has not been earmarked for another purpose, such as bills or financial goals. It gives you an accurate picture of what is available to use in your bank account. It's a pretty brilliant solution. I'll call out one example as it was top of mind for many of our site visits yesterday in the borrow category. A company that we work with called QCash is looking to disrupt the payday industry. There are more payday lenders in the United States than McDonald's and Starbucks locations combined. Payday lenders in the United States have a free-for-all. They charge upwards of 400% annual percentage rate to consumers who do not have better options. QCash is a fintech platform that's looking to change all of that. And they're partnering with different banks that offers their small dollar credit solution where a consumer can apply, be approved, and have funds deposited into their bank account from their mobile device in 1 minute. QCash is providing convenience that traditional financial institutions haven't been able to find. These are just some of the examples of fintech partnerships and collaborations that we're seeing in the United States, but there are plenty of others. But as Professor Choi alluded to, one of the common denominator themes to get started on your own financial health journey is to take a pulse of the financial health of your constituents. I encourage each of you to leverage the tools that you have at your disposal. The Financial Health Score Toolkit is one of those tools that we created, but there are plenty of others out there. Thank you again so much to the MetLife Foundation for inviting me to Seoul, and I look forward to continuing the conversation with each of you. But thank you.